Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Caster Class with All Chat Esports. I am Hada. I am the All Chat Esports flagship commentator. Been commentating for the last 7 years, and something that made my commentary experience very significant and really helped me to become a more confident commentator is actual commentary reflection and review, which really got started when I was working with Justin Zetz out in Ohio. So, Zetz, if you're listening to this, shout out to you, homie. You've definitely given me a lot of confidence moving forward. But today, I have with me Sparrow's own Logan. So Logan is, if you don't know him, awesome Marth player out from the East Coast, and actually got a lot of credit when they went to Summit. Actually, put a lot of great insight on the mic on that caster couch style. So a lot of voices, a lot of great input, and Logan reached out and had a pretty decent commentary session over at the Salt Mine, which is a weekly run over on the All Chat Esports Twitch stream once a week. So if you would like to get check into that, we'd love to have you guys and hang out and chat there. But Logan is here. He wants to get a little bit better. He wants to go over some general ideas. And yeah, so Logan, what would you like to? What are some goals you would like to achieve here? Is there any sort of questions you might have before we get started?
I don't really have any questions. I have a couple of goals in mind
Mm-hmm.
already.
Okay.
One of them in particular is meshing well with whether I should be information heavy or kind of like play by play reacting onto the game. So like, what kind of like co-commentator, what kind of style should I do? So like, say
Mm-hmm.
I'm commentating with Scar, would I be like more in like informative, in-depth analysis, kind of analytical style,
Mm-hmm.
or would I go kind of play by play in the game? And another thing that I was interested in is like how to provide like in-depth information without overpowering the mic, because
Yeah.
that was a criticism I got a lot on Summit commentary, was that I was rather overpowering on the microphone, because when I would go to explain an idea, I would have to explain like 10 ideas beforehand, and I would end up taking a long time.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I was for sure gonna go over with you today. Is that idea of condensing your information, as well as that really goes hand in hand with establishing roles, which is very much so where, and throughout traditional sports, throughout a lot of other esports commentary, like even if you look at no further than professional League of Legends, they have two, if not three, casters. One very much so dedicated to play by play, one of my favorite casters of all time, Captain Flowers, one of the greatest play-by-play casters in esports. If you want to see and hear some incredible play-by-play commentary, just listen to Captain Flowers Reigns commentate a team fight in League of Legends. It's so awesome. And then of course your color commentary, which is it's really color commentary is to set a scene, build narratives, and to establish a overarching theme that the audience can really grasp to. Now, um, the Golden Guardians boys, I believe it was PP and Toph on their Radio Melee show, actually brought that up on as an audience question very recently. Is what does it mean to actually have good commentary, and is Melee too fast? Is it realistic to do play by play commentary? Is it a little redundant? And so I would love to go into that on a separate video because I can talk about that for hours. But so if you guys would love to hear about my opinions on role setting and is play by play casting really important and even useful for Super Smash Bros. Melee because it is a fast game. It's a ridiculous game. But you can go ahead and talk about that on a later date. But we have some great goals here. Go again, meshing with new casters. That's a tool that is honestly difficult for just about any caster, regardless of how experienced you are. It's being able to feel out and understand how to establish those boundaries with your fellow co-commentator, and that will move forward going into these sets that we're going to check out. So, looking at it, so I would love to take a listen over to the Dreffin versus J Flex losers finals of Salt Might number 7. Sheik Ditto, obviously. J Flex being our flagship sponsor player, and of course Dreffin as an ex Ohio player. That's my boy right there. So love to see this set. It was definitely a good time. So
uh,
now we have our goal setting. So we got our general notes, and so we're just gonna go Dreffin versus J Flex, and we are versus J Flex.
Something I was thinking about like before
Mm-hmm.
I got into this like set
Mm-hmm.
was that my co-commentator was like um like not like a super like top level melee player. Like of course like had melee experience, but like I knew that if I went crazy with like the analytical questioning, then like it might be a little bit difficult to mesh. So I try to stay a little bit more like casual in this set, I guess, would be the best word for it, and like a little bit less focused on like hard analysis.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and keep that in mind, and we can go ahead and move in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull my notes to the side here, and I'm going to go ahead and take some notes as we listen through, and then I'm going to keep some timestamps, and we can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start this up, and we'll go game by game here.
Game 2, where are my streamer tools? Boop. JFlex with the game 1 dub.
I can't hear your window if you're
Logan, did you find it?
Commentary.
Can you hear it?
I can't hear the.
Let me try a
the
different
stream.
broadcasting thing, because I think I might have to broadcast the app, not the stream.
Yeah, you have to share the browser.
Yeah, okay. How's that?
I am struggling. I'm struggling. I can't lie.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it.
Perfect. All right. Go ahead and reset that then.
Game 2, where are my streamer tools? Boop. JFlex with the game 1 dub.
I think at the beginning I had trouble actually getting.
Logan, did you find it?
The Slippy GG.
I am struggling.
I had to refresh it.
I'm struggling. I can't lie.
Well, just let me know when you get in. I will
I
solo.
got it. I had to refresh.
Okay.
I had to...
Perfect. Dreffen on the
The disappointment.
Dreffen on the back foot again, but I say that, and then he just reversals JFlex for the first stock. We are at a
Commentary
pretty.
life is hard. Commentary life is hard.
I know, dude. It's so fucking hard, especially when it's just like I don't know Sheiks that well either.
Yeah.
Oh, Dreffen getting a cheeky ledge grab, but then just getting fared into the wall. We're at 10%, so perfect grab percentages for both of them. I say that Dreffen gets his first grab on a platform, though, so we're going to see how he connects. Just fair, just going to take that sweet percent.
Dreffen just going, or JFlex going straight in with an aerial, not even worrying about anything, and it seems to work.
Yeah, JFlex always so confident in his aerial game, especially Nair. I feel like he uses Nair as like such a Swiss Army knife. I say that, and oh my god, they are lagging. We are on the struggle bus today, ladies and gentlemen, but who is not struggling is JFlex with this lead.
That
84?
killed so early. That killed so early. JFlex not lagging at all, simply experiencing what it's like to be on the receiving end of a Sheik data set. My god.
Alright.
This is such a full hop war. They're like not playing ground game at all.
I feel like they're just trying to catch each other's movement right now and control center whenever they can. And JFlex gonna have the advantage in this interaction. Fair to turn around needle. Oop, you gotta...
I feel like JFlex's edge guards cost him more in like his overall gameplay than anything else. Like, if JFlex did like the Muta King like edge guards, like he would just win like so many sets that he's losing.
Yeah, and speaking
like
of...
the rising back air.
Yeah, on the ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of... Oh.
He was winning, and I know the whole thing is reversed because he missed an edge guard.
Yeah, it's 1-1 now.
Okay. Just as you're listening to it now as a third party perspective, what did you gain? What did you gain from hearing that again?
I noticed a lot of filler words that I used that caused me to take longer on ideas than I should have to. Like, an idea that is relatively simple to explain, like the edge guard disparity, I end up stretching a super long time because I use a lot of unnecessary like and kind of words
Right.
when I'm speaking.
Correct. So that's a tool that comes with a lot more experience and a lot more confidence, and that's something that's really difficult to teach, but you have to be aware of what your filler is, and you have to make it as not as jarring as it possibly could be. So when you're throwing a lot of likes, and all the very typical ones, the audience will pick up on that. So I'm gonna give you a little. This is gonna be our first little commentary tool and tip. So I'm gonna pull this over, and we have a Oh, hang on, I gotta share the other screen. But hang on, give me 1 second. So our first commentary tip that I have for you is, do not be afraid of silence. Something that has aided me very much so when it comes to eliminating filler is pausing. You're allowed to pause. And if you find yourself stretching on a term, like if you find yourself rambling, because you don't want there to be silence, you don't want it to be awkward. Silence is not awkward. Silence allows the audience to take in the scene for themselves and build a narrative on their own, from their own perspective, as well as from the narrative that the commentators are highlighting, which is really, really important, because a reason why people will always say a movie gets adapted from a book, right? So if you've read The Shining, Stephen King's The Shining, and then you watch the film, which is one of the greatest films of all time. It's an amazing film. But if you've read the novel, you're like, wow, that's one of the greatest novels I've ever read. It's one of the greatest psychological thriller novels I've ever read, because you can see it in your own mind's eye. You can build that perspective and you can build that story, not just from how Stephen King is dictating it, but also how you can take that information that you're being given and fill in the blanks yourselves. And that's what silence can do, even in esports commentary and even in commentary. So even giving just a little bit of silence allows people to make those conclusions. So when you're talking about that extended edge guard, when you drop down, is like Mute King did back in 2014, drop back, do the double jump back air to cover all those angles. That's really, really important. That's something that you don't see JFlex do a lot of the time. But if you can condense that and be like, a lot of these edge guards could be polished a little bit more by incorporating this little piece of tech that was really famous from that Mute King did a couple years back. Hard stop. So you don't have to go and be like, yeah, it covers this, that, and the other thing, because if you can tie that together, and if you are talking to an established Melee player, an established Melee viewer, they know what you're talking about. They know, if you can just give them that piece of information, then they can draw that conclusion. And then, especially if further down the set, JFlex or Dreffen does that option, be like, oh my god, yeah, that's what I was talking about in game number 1. It's finally showing. And that's how successful it was. Then the audience, as a recipient of that dictation, is like, oh my god, now I can see how large the gravity of that situation actually was. And it didn't have to be spelled out for him. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So don't be afraid of silence. Silence 100% okay. And then understanding when you're rambling, because sometimes I'm like that too, especially if I'm commentating a Peach set, 'cause I'm a Peach player and I've been a Peach player for a long time. Hi, Cat. So when you have this really big, complex Melee idea, if you do a lot of analysis, you have all these deep, complex ideas on how Melee can and should be played. And that's really important. But at the same time, you have to be able to condense that and figure out how to dictate that to your audience in a very quick little bite of information. And sometimes you do need a little bit more time to do that. So what you can do is, this is what I do, is if I have a big piece of information, I have to get this out because it's so important. If it takes me more than 2 breaths to get it out, I need to stop. If I find myself refreshing my breath or refreshing or getting uncomfortable with how long I'm talking, you need to find a way to stop that statement and find a way to condense it. Or even, this is another great little tool I can give you, is ask for your co-commentator's perspective. Whether that be if you think it'll be super impactful, or whether it'll be as insightful of what you're saying, it takes away that ramble and it turns it into a conversation. So what you can do is if you have rambling can be turned into a conversation. So, for example, you were kind of rambling at the end there around that 220 mark, that last stock about that extended edge guard option. And so you can be a different way you can phrase it is, yeah, JFlex could be incorporating this backer that Mewtwo King did where you drop and do that double jump backer. What do you think about that? And they're like, and then Slum could be like, yeah, I noticed that Dreffin's recovering really low. And if JFlex can really get a jump on him, and catch him out of a double jump, he can kill him really early. Or he can use that to get back to ledge or whatever. And you can get that secondary perspective, and it doesn't seem as jarring, and it doesn't seem as overbearing from the audience's perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So not only can you quantify that, like, sometimes it's difficult to tell when you're rambling because, you know, we play and commentate Melee because we're passionate about it. And that passion will take over. And that's just how it's got to be. So you have to be able to keep yourself cognizant in that moment and be like, okay, I need to catch my breath because I've been talking for a while. That's how I remind myself on how to do that as effectively as possible. So watch your breath. And there you go. So going back on my notes here so we can go back into what we were doing. So you said your point was I want to try to keep it a little bit more casual, try a different approach style, see how that blends different with Slum's style of commentary. And Slum is definitely someone who learned to commentate by commentating with me, and I'm very much so one of the few more play-by-play centric commentators. So he's very much so, let me take the information that's being provided and let me just build a scene around it. Slum actually has learned to be a pretty solid color commentator, and I'm really happy with the progress he's made, which is awesome. So he definitely has this really cool color commentary blend style. And this is where, if you know that you're going to have a commentary block with a specific other caster, it's actually really important to reach out to that person, if possible, and just talk about what makes you feel comfortable on commentary. So, for example, if I was going to commentate Genesis this year, and I had to commentate with, I don't know, like Trey the Trash Man or something, if I was commentating round 2 pools with Trey the Trash Man, and I've commentated with Trey a handful of times, but let's say I'd never commentated with him before, I'm like, okay, all right, Trey, well, what do you like to do on commentary? He's like, oh, I like to do a little bit of more of a play-by-play style. I like to really try to highlight what's happening immediately on the screen, yada, 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 talk it out. And it's okay to talk it out because that'll make the awkwardness of trying to figure out how your co-commentator best highlights their skills on the mic, and then you kind of have that general idea going into it. And if you don't have that opportunity to at least talk to them beforehand, go and look up some of the sets that they've commentated in the past. Just see what do you like about their commentary style, how could you add to it, and how could you incorporate or at least tweak your commentary style to work best with them. Because it is a team atmosphere. As much as you can improve on your own craft, it's really important to be able to understand how to adapt your style to bring the best performance and bring your best self to the end goal of putting out a good product for the viewers. Because at the end of the day, we're here to make sure that we can highlight why Melee is a great game, why it's as beautiful as it is to the people in Twitch chat or to the people in the YouTube VODs. So it's really important to be able to understand where are the strengths of our co-caster and where are the weaknesses, and how can we mitigate those weaknesses and really highlight those strengths. So in Slum's case, being able to give really hard-hitting pieces of information that he can expand on, that will make him a super useful addition to Melee commentary. So that's just something that I've learned from commenting with him for a while. So we can go back to, I'm going to go ahead and go to the other broadcast really quick so I can go to the other app, and we can go ahead and check out. So I have some timestamps for you to check out. So my first one is over at 1:15. And so we're just going to listen to this together, and once we hit the end, I just want to hear your perspective on what was good, what was bad.
Just fair. Just going to take that sweet percent.
Jeffrey just going, or J-Fly's going straight in with an aerial, not even worrying about anything, and it seems to work.
Yeah, J-Flex always so confident in his aerial game, especially.
So, well, what did you gather from that piece? What was good? What was bad?
What was bad was the being afraid of silence and using a lot of filler words. But what was good was that I gave Slumlord that information to work with, and he was able to bounce off of it.
Exactly. So what was really great about that, it was a really good controlled handoff, is what I like to call it. So you have your piece of information, and what's great about being able to bounce back and forth like that is while your co-commentator is talking, you can be watching the screen and then listening to what they're saying and then being able to continue off of their thought process as well as giving context to what was happening. So that's really, really important. So that was a really great back and forth situation there. And of course, like, now with this newfound knowledge, you can give yourself that second of silence and then jump into that next thought that you have prepared. So that was a good handoff sequence, but again, could be polished up, but that happens with more experience. So let me go ahead and see where my next timestamp is. Yes, we can go to 1:45.
Lead to
That
84?
killed so early. That killed so early. J-Flex not lagging at all, simply experiencing what it's like to be on the receiving end of a shake data set. My god.
All right.
This is such a full hop war. They're like not
Yeah.
playing ground game at all.
I feel like they're just trying to catch each.
Okay, so what did you gather from that?
It was a little bit of an awkward transition, but I do like that I used silence a little bit there and kind of cut off the idea when it wasn't going anywhere, and then there's a good commentary handoff at the end.
So what I would recommend in situations like this is don't feel rushed to spit something out. Just take the time. In situations like this, you have to assume that you and your co-commentator are trying to develop a piece of meaningful information at the same time. You're both in the thinking process and you would like there to be one person performing per se, speaking on the mic, and the other person is downloading information, breaking it down, trying to make it into a digestible piece of information for the audience. So in this situation, you're both kind of in that download state, so there's not really anything happening being performed right now, which is fine. It happens. So what we need to do is...
So we're both in color commentary mode when one should be in play-by-play while the other is focusing on color?
Not necessarily. So the difference between play-by-play and color isn't necessarily who's talking or who's breaking down the situation. It's more of the style of commentary. So play-by-play is very much so just spitting out exactly what's happening on the screen. So, for example, like, you're not going to do really deep, complex information when, I don't know, like, again, they're just going to bring it into other esports or, like, other sports. So, let's say, like, in League, there's a huge 5 versus 5 team fight in mid lane. All these abilities are being spit out, and there's just massive amounts of damage, and there's this crazy disruption, and everything's going on, and this is going to win the game, and yada, yada, yada. And all you can really do as a commentator in that situation is narrate what is exactly happening. That's play-by-play commentary. Color commentary is very much so more common in Melee now. It is kind of how the Melee commentary meta has shifted towards, because it's not as popular to just do narrative style play-by-play commentary in the Super Smash Bros. Scene. It's definitely more common in Ultimate because it's significantly slower. And I would love, again, I'm going to try to make a video about that in the future, and hopefully we can get a cool little aspect. So in this situation, you guys are both trying to find out what is the next bulk piece of information to narrate on and at least get your flow started back up. So what we really need to do is, this is what I call learning when to shut up and learning when to, like, pump the brakes. So in a situation like this, you're both downloading, you're both trying to find that next piece of information. And you have to, if you find that piece of information, say it confidently, and then end your phrase. So you have to be able to understand in this situation that you've said your piece and you've tried, and your job is done. Your job in this situation is to get the train back rolling with that first nice piece of information. and then it's up to Slum to pick it up after that. So in this situation, you found your little piece of information to kind of get the train rolling, and then you still felt like the silence was there, so you kept talking, and you talked over Slum a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I noticed that's something I struggle with at Summit. What I really liked about doing commentary there was because I know like all the players personally. It was I had a unique perspective that I could craft narratives with, and that was like the perspective of someone who was playing with the player. So like during a Wizrobe set, I was talking about like the practice I was doing with Wizrobe beforehand and what he was telling me about his next match and stuff, and I was using that to start a narrative.
Yeah,
so I do definitely really enjoy color commentary. So thank you for that advice.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's definitely a interesting piece of information. You're probably finding out what your commentary style is, which is very important because once you know where your style is strongest, now we just have to trim the fat and figure out how to make your style best adaptable as well as best suited to work with people who either like people in like myself. I love to do more play-by-play style commentary, or to work with people who are more like explosive, not necessarily like building a narrative, but more setting a scene. So Scar, as an example, is so great at establishing storylines and setting a scene, whereas Toph is so good at breaking down the information provided, like you said, like bringing in outside information, being able to string that through past sets and bring in that descriptive melee knowledge, and that's why they have such an amazing rapport with each other, because their styles naturally complement each other. So in this situation, this is where I'm gonna bring in our next little tool, and that's like learning. As crude as it sounds, just learning when to shut up, and it's a crude way to put it, but I'm just gonna bring it in like this. It's understanding is when your statement stops having value. So, for example, you got the train rolling in that situation. You just have to slam on the brakes and let your co-commentator take the reins after that, and then you get back into your flow. Like we saw in that first clip that I highlighted, there was a great handoff. It was, you finished your statement, Slum finished his statement, handed it back to you, finished his statement, and then it just flowed, and it was great. It was awesome. Yes, there's some contextual filler words that can be polished out as you progress as a commentator, but that's something that happens with a lot of experience. I still find myself working with that. So
I noticed that when I was co-commentating with Scar, we had a really good rapport. I think it's because of that reason. The kind of Scar and Toph analysis versus like explosive.
Explosive, yeah. Set this. I love how Scar's a storyteller. He wants everyone to understand the gravity of what not just this set means, not just what this game means, but also what this means for the greater stage of the tournament, which is amazing. So that is let me see. Okay, cool. So we talked about 220 already, which was the extended back air, the ledge drop back air situation, but I kind of want to touch on it again really quick. So in that situation, you took that idea and you ran with it. And so you had, like, it was a very important piece of information to bring up, but you have to know when
to stop.
Yeah, when to stop and when it stops having value. Because in the grand scheme of things, and I've had this conversation with many players, commentators, old heads, and specifically I had this conversation with Hanky Panky, and Hanky Panky, absolute legend of the game, one of the greatest to ever do it from the Midwest. And he's like, I always watch Melee with the commentary music, so I just think that commentators don't know what they're talking about. And if you ever talk to Hanky about Melee, he's one of the smartest Melee players on the planet. So he just doesn't derive any value. But you have to realize that your core audience is those... Imagine, like, your core audience is not just the people who go 0-2 at their weekly, not just the people who go 1-2 at their weekly, 2-2 at their weekly, but also those guys' roommates. That guy who goes 2-2 at their weekly, it's the guy that lives in his dorm room in college. Like, those are the people watching the stream. It's Ultimate players, it's old Brawl players, it's people who just want to see what a Smash tournament's about. So sometimes you have to give that depth of information to explain the severity of that situation and why it's so impactful. But a lot of the times you can kind of give the respect to the people to kind of grasp it a little sooner than you think. So that's the difference between going on your personal stream and doing set analysis and then being able to talk about a 15-second clip for an hour, which, you know, you can do when you're doing very detailed Melee analysis. But in this situation, you have to get that piece of information out in like 4 seconds. So how can you condense all of that wealth of information that you would love to talk about for 2 hours and then put it in this digestible piece of information that you can get out in 1 to like 1.5 breaths, you know? So we're going to go ahead and listen to that little piece, and then I would love to hear your perspective on it.
You know, oop, you gotta.
I feel like JFlex's edge guards cost him more in like his overall gameplay than anything else. Like, if JFlex did like the Mewtwo King like edge guards, like he would just win like so many sets that he's losing.
Yeah, and
Like
speaking of,
the rising back air.
yeah, on the ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking
Like,
of, oh,
He was winning, and I know the whole thing is reversed because he missed an edge guard.
Yeah, it's 1-1 now.
Okay, so what'd you gather from that?
I went on for way too long and interrupted. I would have interrupted some more.
So yeah, so in that situation, what I would really love to hear you do, we're just gonna keep going back to that. Now I want to show you where it would have been perfect to stop, because you had like 2 great stopping points. One was way better than the others.
Like JFlex's edge guards cost him more in like his overall gameplay than anything else.
Right there.
Right there, yeah.
So
Was I thinking when I
then,
was watching that?
so here's what this opens up, right? Not only does this give a narrative that, you know, JFlex not really looking too strong on his edge guards right now. His edge guard might be his weakest point in this matchup. And then Slum can talk about that. Slum could have just said what I just said. And then you can go into the Mewtwo King bit. So let's say, you know, you say that.
Advantage in this interaction. Fair to turn around Needle. Oop, you gotta.
I feel like JFlex's edge guards cost him more in like his overall gameplay than anything else.
Yeah, Logan, I really agree. It feels like he's dropping a lot of these extended conversions, and I really think that if he can get a grip for what Dreffin's trying to do to get back to stage, he can really close out these stocks sooner. And then blah, 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 you can go ahead and talk about, yeah, I think a really great option would be the old tool, like ledge hop Mewtwo King back air, because it's can snipe out a lot of these low recoveries that Dreffin's going for. There you go. Super easy. So, but
Okay.
you had all this in your head already. Like, you had the time to, like, okay, JFlex's edge guards are weak. Here's an option that can make them stronger, and here's why it's stronger. And you wanted to say all of that. So this is where allowing your co-commentator to be able to draw those conclusions as well, or at least turn it into a conversation, like I said earlier. So you have this piece, okay, edge guarding is looking weak. And then Slum's like, yeah, and how do you think he can make it stronger? Or, yeah, I really think that Dreffin's really getting away with recovering low every single time. And so you can take the information you already have and then take the information that Slum's about to give you and then transform that into a really complex conversation that can provide not just a lot of value for the situation, but provide a lot of value for the audience as well. So it gives them the opportunity that they almost feel like as a listener and as a watcher, that they're a part of this conversation, that they're a part of this situation where the commentators are discovering and discussing something that could make a huge change in the match, and they're learning about it at the same time as the commentators, and that's a really cool feeling as a viewer. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So I think a huge thing is for new commentators is you have to remind yourself that, yeah, you're talking about Melee and it's something you're passionate about, but you also have to remember that your job is to provide insight to the people who are just watching, you know? So
I think a large portion of it too comes down to like me needing to trust my co-commentator. Because I was like afraid that if I didn't say the whole thought that I wouldn't actually be able to get to where I wanted to go with the idea, which was the back air edge guard.
Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really good point you brought up, is being able to trust your co-commentator. And sometimes, you might have this idea, you might have this line of thinking that will seamlessly flow through the entire big idea you have and the entire narrative that you're trying to develop here. But the thing is sometimes your co-commentator could surprise you and bring up a counterpoint, bring up something that could deepen your understanding of that, and you can be like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. That's another great option. I was also thinking about this option that Mutaking used to do. So maybe JFlex should really try to expand on his edgeguard flowcharts. And then perfect, boom, done. Tied it up with a bow, seal it, signed, and delivered. So that was our game number 1. And this is going to go a lot faster as we progress, I promise. Because now we've kind of have our baseline of what we're looking for as a developing commentator. So now we can kind of go into games number 2, 3, 4. I don't know how long this set is, but we're just going to do this set real quick. And we don't have to go super in depth with a lot of stuff we already discussed. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share the game number 2 and we're just going to check that out.
Like, if JFlex did the Mutaking edge guards, he would just win like so many sets that he's losing.
Yeah, and speaking of
the rising back air.
Yeah, on the ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of,
he was winning, and I know the whole thing is reversed because he missed an edge guard.
Yeah, it's 1-1 now. That last stock was definitely a pretty heavy. Doing.
He's missing.
Yeah. Have to see where. Hey, wait, Hada, you can't root against your teammate. My guy, what are you doing in chat rooting against your teammate?
All chat esports in shambles, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I honestly think JFlex's overall neutral is more solid. He's missing so many edge guards that Dreffin is just getting consistently, and that's really a big win condition you can't fuck up.
Yeah, Dreffin continuing his dominant streak from last game, finding a cool 70% off of a chain grab at the beginning, but JFlex warming up them legs, really getting that small chic dash dance going.
You'll see these mix-ups where Dreffin does full hop, falling aerial, and the next time Dreffin does full hop, and then double jump to platform, wave land, and then goes down the aerial. And it's those little baits he's weaving here and there that really allows him to set the pace of the match so easily.
Yeah, and Dreffin really not taking much damage. He's still in that cool crouch cancel percent, but JFlex with the reaction tech chase, chain grab. Oh.
Ooh.
Such a warm grab.
Perfect shield grab. I think that's what that was. And yeah, I see just the consistency of Dreffin's punish, his knowledge of the flow charts, and his ability to just edge guard really just puts him in the lead very, very consistently, even if the neutral is relatively even.
All right. Oh, Dreffin gonna try to hold on with the Zelda, then deciding against it.
He heard you.
Yeah. One stock difference in this game. JFlex gonna have to try to come back from a pretty big disadvantage, but we know this Ditto is one of the most fickle but brutal mistresses you can have.
Dreffin is playing dive kick.
Oh, I remember that game. Oh, yeah, that was such a
He's
good game.
literally playing dive kick. Full hop, down air, full hop, down air, full hop, down air. And JFlex at the chain grab zone. I honestly think he needs to get this chain grab to stay in the game. I think if he fucks it up, then that makes things a lot harder than it needs to be. What are you doing, edge guard? You gotta go over there. Just a little bit passive on the edge guards.
Yeah, just a tiny bit, but it might be playing out. Great tech by Dreffin.
Now Dreffin should be dead here, but he's holding on. He's getting more and more.
All right, we are on the same stock. JFlex somehow bringing this back to even kilter. We are only at a 20% deficit. Both still in crouch cancel percent. Just trying to see if they can get a risky option out of the other one. But JFlex, tried and true fares at platform are going to stack up damage until he dies. Dreffin, back with the babiest of leads. Can he hold on to it?
So afraid to grab the shield now.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing all these mix-ups before going for grab. He's not just straight going for grab because of how often Dreffin left the spot dodge. And now Dreffin can just shield for free because of all the spot dodge conditioning.
Yeah, definitely conditioning when your name on Smash GG is spot dodge.
Oh, he got an edge guard. He got edge guard. There you go.
Can you hear me, Hada?
All right, 80%
Yes.
on JFlex.
Okay,
How is he going to make a comeback? Will
Needles
Dreffin
grab.
get... Yeah, he can, yeah, for sure. Will Dreffin continue the lead into another game set? The fair might be enough, but we're back at ledge. Dreffin playing so patiently.
And remember before where like JFlex was doing those really confident high air.
I feel like I feel like I noticed so many spots where I could have bounced off of what Slumlord was saying, but I went off of my own idea. That was like the biggest thing. Like, I feel like there was like plenty of opportunities there. I could have reacted to what Slumlord was saying and built something off of it that maybe would have been even more interesting than what I was saying previously. Also, if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Oh, totally. I had my mic muted. So we
Oh
have
yeah, I haven't heard you. I haven't heard you at all this whole time, and I was like, what?
Yeah. No, we're good. So yeah, so we're working on the now that we kind of have our established precedent of what we need to work on that we discussed in game number 1 as well as in our goal setting. I kind of have some pretty decent timestamps, and I want to discuss what you could learn from, and I 100% agree that you could have been being more reactive to what Slum was saying, because it, like I said, it builds a conversation and it builds a narrative just by talking back and forth. So it's very akin to just melee. It's reactive versus proactive versus reactive style of speaking. So you have an idea in your brain of what you want to say next while your co-commentator's talking, and if you need to get that information out, and it's imperative that you get that information out, that's just a proactive style of commentary where you just want to make sure that you can get out this imperative piece of information. However, if you have like a general aspect of what's going on, maybe you want to highlight some things, but it's not super important, it's more important to think about proceeding in a more reactive sense. So focus, obviously still keep in touch with what's happening on screen, but really pay attention to what your co-commentator is saying and see if you can expand or see if you can provide some more insight on what they're saying as well. So we're going to go ahead and check out some timestamps real quick. So I had a really good utilization of pause, like pausing before while you're speaking from Slum, that I really wanted you to see. Wow, that game was long. I didn't realize it. Should be like around here. And I'll go ahead and swap that over. So just listen to how Slum takes a little pause as he takes the next piece of information from you, and then see how he establishes that he's getting ready to speak, and then takes a pause, and then gets ready to hop into what he wants to deliver.
Yeah, and Dreffin really not taking much damage. He's still in that.
Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
So let me just play it again for the people watching at home.
Yeah, and Dreffin.
So like this little pause, if you're really digesting it, it might seem a little weird. But it allows you to not throw in those jarring filler words. So I would rather my comments, like co-commentators and any commentator, take that little pause that Slum did and reestablish what they want to say.
Yeah, and Dreffen really not taking much damage. He's still in that cool crouch cancel percent.
Yeah, so he realized that okay, Dreffen's in the lead. Let's talk about Dreffen. Dreffen just cleaned up an edge guard. Now, let's check out what the situation Dreffen's under. He's at a little bit of high percent. He's outside that crouch cancel percent. I think he might have meant to say like he's a little bit outside of crouch cancel percent. But it allowed him to think about and digest a little bit so he could provide some insightful information. So that's just an example. Now let me see what my other okay, 20. So just gonna carry on.
But J-Flex with the reaction tech chase, chain grab. Oh.
Ooh.
Such a warm grab.
Perfect shield grab. Perfect shield grab.
So in that situation, a lot of people will call that grasping for air. So it gets a little more difficult the more people you have on the mic. Either you'll have, there's two different types of grasping for air in this situation. It's either everyone wants to talk at once or no one's ready to talk yet. So clearly in that situation, there wasn't either enough information to provide anything insightful that either you thought you wanted to dictate or you were waiting to get something from your co-commentator. So in that situation, you know, you could either let the situation play out, let something develop, so in which you did, which is fine. But a lot of people will be like, oh my God, this is awkward. I got to say something. And whereas in this situation, you can let the situation play out and let the audience start to build that narrative themselves. So in this situation, it's quiet.
Ooh.
Such a warm grab.
Perfect shield grab.
It's like, honestly, that's just a really good way to end that kind of, I hate to use awkward silence, but like it's a good chunk of silence where there's really nothing developing either. So it's not like a bad chunk of silence. So what you can do is let the situation play out, wait for something interesting to happen, or wait for a development in the game to progress, and then speak on that. Don't feel forced to say something when nothing needs to be said. So that's actually a really good tool. Little tip.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Don't feel forced to say something when nothing needs to be said. And then, oh yeah, 510. Here we go.
One of the most fickle but brutal mistresses you can have.
Dreffen is playing dive kick.
Oh, I remember that game.
I actually really love this piece of information you brought. I thought that was hilarious. I honestly thought the dive kick reference was really funny. And so if you can make little jokes, you can make little tie-ins like that, like it's entertaining. Like it's a very apt description, and then you carry that on through the rest of the set, and I really enjoyed that. Like I was just sitting here playing League on my main monitor and listening to the stream on my second one, and I really enjoyed that tidbit of information. So I just wanted to give you props on that one. That was a good little piece. 545.
You gotta go over there. Just a little bit passive on the edge guards.
Yeah, just a tiny bit, but it might be playing out. Great tech by Dreffen.
Now Dreffen should be dead here, but he's holding on. He's getting more and more.
So you guys are kind of playing the silences a little bit better here, but I did want to highlight. I'm glad you took a pause when Slum was getting ready to hand the mic over to you. And so you took that pause, you digested what you wanted to say, you got what was going on the screen. And then, again, like this is one of those situations where, yeah, it's a chain grabbing Sheik Ditto on Dreamland, it's going to be a little slower. So you have to be able to either, one, be comfortable with the silence and really provide macro game knowledge. So this is like one of those situations where if you're commentating Peach Puff, Puff Samus, Puff Dittos or something, and it's a lot more about macro game sense versus little micro interactions, you can go on longer tangents and be like, oh, it's really interesting how I'm just gonna give a Puff Ditto example, like Toussaint HBox or something. It's really interesting that Toussaint is spacing more around the side platforms rather than off stage or going towards top platform. I'm curious to see how his placement of aerials will develop, or what he's trying to get HBox to move into, or where he's feeling more comfortable. So you can ramble in situations like this. And again, this is one of those situations where, yeah, it's Sheik Ditto's chain grabbing on Dreamland. There's not a lot of huge explosive interactions. So you can kind of take that extra time, take that silence to develop some more big, lengthy macro thoughts, and then try to condense them to where they're more consumable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got you.
Yeah. And let me see, what was our last one here? It was, yes, this is actually very important.
Then continue the lead into another game set. The fair might be enough, but we're back at ledge. Dreffin playing so patiently.
I remember before where like JFlex was doing those really confident high aerials and then coming up behind Dreffin's shield, and how he is getting.
Okay, so there are very few situations where you really need to lean on more of a play-by-play aspect of commentary in Melee, and it's last stock situations are one of the few ones, or timeout situations. So that's when you really need to talk about what's happening there. So, but you did something interesting after the fact. So what I would have loved to hear you talk about is what led to that kill option, and that was there's a solid percentage advantage.
I remember before where
and
At ledge.
so Dreffin's playing patience on the
Dreffin
platform.
playing so patiently.
Oh my god, Slum literally said she's playing patient.
I remember
And then just caught him with a crouch cancel down smash because he had the percentage advantage. He played an awesome defensive game on that last stock and allowed him to get that counter hit to seal away the game. Boom, Dreffin's up 2-0. And then we have this cool thing where you're talking about this macro full hop game sense or game plan that Dreffin was getting into. I would have loved for you to talk about that starting now. Like once the game has been decided and you're waiting for that next game to start, in between games is the perfect time to go on more of those lengthy tangents. So if there's a cool big macro idea that you saw in that game plan, it's like, yeah, Dreffin was literally playing dive kick. He was full hopping on the platforms and coming down with down air, going for those low percentage launchers, trying to confirm it into grab, whatever. And you can, while there's nothing to distract the audience from that, like so let's say like it's difficult to be able to get all of that information out when there's a game happening, but if you're in between games and you can give so much information that the audience can digest it and visualize it just by you explaining it, that's the perfect time to do it. So they can't get distracted by what's going on here, but what they can do is while they're in between games and they're looking at commentator cams, go on your tangent. It really explains those big macro ideas, because not only does that educate people on how these players are playing the matchup, but it also gives a little bit of context to, okay, well now how will JFlex deal with this in the next couple games, or will Dreffin continue to stick to this game plan, yada, 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 yada. How will this macro gameplay decision affect the rest of the set? So there's a little thing right there, and we can go ahead and hop into the next game, which is Dreamland again. So let me go ahead and take a peek at my notes real fast. Give me just one moment. And we are good to go.
Hydrate.
sometimes you gotta play to what the opponent is doing and not what you think they're gonna do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of those classic cases of just being in the mind of your opponent. Dreffin is definitely getting some free rides with his shield. But JFlex playing a little more patient than normal. We are in hard neutral until the grab. And we get the first grab out of JFlex. These chain grabs are so hype.
Oh, if you like go to the
Ooh.
chain grab early instead of doing like a reverse fair. Cold edge. Yep. 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 Now back air. Now back air. Now grab ledge. No. JFlex. No. Okay, he still gets it. He still gets it.
All right. Well, JFlex only taking 50% on his first stock. Could probably get a chain grab on Dreffen again and make this a true Sheik Ditto lead. Gonna grab the ledge. Gonna get a reset. No reset the full hop when he probably meant to short hop. Yeah.
And you'll notice that JFlex, he's starting to win neutral a bit more now because he's playing Needle the platforms, which prevents Dreffen from like getting up onto those platforms and just dive kicking over and over and over again. He's preventing Dreffen from using the platforms by like throwing those like short hop needle on platform, like aerial onto the platform, etc. His goal here is to just prevent Dreffen from like being able to just do those full hop mix-ups on platforms, really sharking his landings, preventing him from even going out there by needling.
Yeah, we get some top platform play. And the
both
gentleman's needle.
Dive kicking.
Yeah.
Now that was actual dive kick. Now that all they're doing is dive kicking.
I feel like they're both afraid to interact with each other.
They're just not interacting at all.
Yeah.
Whoever actually goes in and interacts first will probably win because they're both just like playing so passive.
All right, back air, not getting that much. Needle's not getting that much, but
Ooh.
JFlex kind of turning it up, getting right under Dreffen as he jumps. But Dreffen reading the movement from JFlex, getting a chain grab. This will probably lead to death. Already at 121, 130.
Yeah.
Even on Dreamland, you won't be able to live that. So we are only at a 60% deficit for Dreffen. But we say that, and I mean, just such a brutal matchup. We are back.
They did the exact same thing to each other.
And the exact same scenario. Yeah.
Oh.
Uh-oh. The internet not working for any of us tonight, apparently. All right.
The dive kick strategy finally working out.
Yep.
At that like 20%, it's so good to hit the dive kick.
Yeah, that bear off of ledge gonna net a cool like 70% off of that conversion, but
Ooh.
JFlex gets the grab of his
Could be
own.
Fair, yep. The whole ledge.
Oh,
okay.
tomahawk. Okay.
Fair enough. Happy little accident.
Yeah, happy little accident is probably gonna net him the kill. I believe he can. Oh, with the fair mix-up, he was probably reading an up smash, and JFlex mixing him up with a fair. That is.
Unmute mic. All right, cool. So, what did you gather from that game?
I felt like that game went a little bit better. There were definitely places where I could have bounced off of what Slumlord was saying. A lot of it though, I feel like I get sidetracked a little bit too easily by my own ideas.
Yeah, that's it's definitely really important to know. Again, it's like something I've said before. It's like know when your idea has value and know when your idea ceases to have value. So, for example, I wanted to bring some highlight to the situation over here. So, it's again something Slum did, which I found was really interesting. So
I also said the same thing 4 times in a row at the beginning of the game, which was
yeah, so it's definitely an interesting situation where there was a lot of silence, and you were trying to. I feel like both of you guys were trying to hopefully see something that would really break the mold and really give some interesting developments. So there really wasn't much going on. So let's go ahead and check this out real quick.
Opponent Dreffen is definitely getting some free rides with his shield, but JFlex playing a little more patient than normal. We are in hard neutral until the grab, and we get the first grab out of JFlex. These chain grabs are so hype.
Oh, he like go to the chain grab early instead of doing the grab.
So in that situation, like there was obviously a pretty decent grasp for silence there, and Slum did something pretty solid where he just kind of just explained the situation. Like, yeah, we're just in a really crazy, weird neutral situation. And we're looking for the grab right now. We're at that weird percent where we're both can crouch cancel each other, and we're just gonna crouch cancel grab. So we're only looking for one option. A chain grab gets started up, and then something I'm gonna discuss with you throughout this game, or something that I think this is a really good example for something to work on, is know how to conclude a statement. So know how to make it obvious for your co-commentator that you're done speaking. So I do personally, what I do is I try to make different flows in my voice. So where like I kind of like I'll be speaking in my regular tone, and I'll end it on more of an exasperated pronunciation of a word or something. I don't know how to describe it. I would have to find a clip. But anyway, like big concluding statements like where did I find it? I did have a note for it.
I think I know what you're talking about
Yes.
with the exasperated enunciations, like the rising of the voice at the end of the statement to kind of add tension.
Precisely. So it's an 11 for us here.
All right.
Oh, the dive kick strategy finally working out.
Yep.
At,
And
the,
then
at that like 20%, it's so good to hit the dive kick.
Yeah, honestly, that was a really good little concluding statement. So like you enunciated yourself, and then you kind of made that hard stop. So like you concluded your thought, and you made that hard stop, so Slum knew exactly when he was getting ready to speak.
yeah, that bear off of ledge gonna net a cool like 70% off of that conversion, but
Ooh.
Jflex gets the grab of his
Could be it.
own.
Fair, yep. The whole ledge.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so in that situation, you made that like concluding statement off of so that Slum could continue talking, then you got this good conversation going back and forth. So it's really important, especially for someone who's trying to fix a rambling habit. That's another little tip to add along with the sort of breath idea, is to, when you feel yourself running out of that breath, search for a way to make that hard stop. Search for a word or enunciation to finish your statement. Cool. And let me see. 9 minutes.
These chain grabs are so hype.
Oh, he like go to
Ooh.
the chain grab early instead of doing like a reverse fair. Whole ledge. Yep. Now back here. Now grab ledge. No.
All right. So, well, what do you think is kind of funky with this situation?
It feels a little bit vague, and it's kind of hard. I feel like it's hard for Slumlord to find an opportunity to build off of it, because I keep ending a lot of these statements with statements that imply I'm about to say something else, and then it just it's like kind of hard for Slumlord to find a way in.
Exactly. You were thinking like a commentator right now, because that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Is there's not really anything substantial for Slum to expand on, because not only is what you're saying insinuate that you're going to say something after the fact, so you're making a lot of exclamatory statements like ooh which is fine, and it'll get exciting in that way. Like it's kind of like you're on your edge, like will he seal away this edge guard? It's so funky. Will he back air? And so an example for something that I might have done in contrast
Whole
is,
ledge. Yep.
so honestly that's perfectly fine. Like I honestly am totally cool with that.
Now back here. Now grab ledge.
So in this situation, so like okay, now so I would say something, all right, so like edge guard refresh, gotta look for one aerial just to seal away this edge guard. Can he do it? And nope. And then so something along those lines where you're building, and then the end of your statement is whether or not he can hit him. So you're trying to like,
Okay.
you can see a situation unfolding, and you want to like extrapolate on that. So you're seeing this situation like, okay, so Dreffin has no jump, all he has to do is upbeat a stage, or J-Flex, all he has to do is hit one aerial off stage and he's dead. And then it's obvious to Slum that the end of your statement should be on whether or not J-Flex hits him or not, you know? Whereas, like,
Uh,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, go on.
So what I was saying is, like, in this situation, you're kind of just being like, maybe I kind of want to say something, you know, that's a little funky. So there's not really, like, if I was your co-commentator, I wouldn't know where to jump in either. So
I think what I was trying to go for was bringing up the back air, musicking back air edge guard from before. But I feel like to actually like add importance to that, I would have had to directly bring it up with specifically words that refer back to that previous interaction. So like saying the musicking edge guard, and then but also like adding those, I guess, those tension enunciations to kind of highlight the moment.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. And callbacks are super important. Callbacks are really, really important, especially on a longer set. So, like I was saying, it's like, okay, you can kind of wrap up the situation. All right, you know, J-Flex got a solid amount of percent off the chain grab. All he has to do is hit this edge guard flowchart. Would love to see a Mewtwo King back air here. And because you've already talked about it previously in the set, that's all you have to say. Like, I would love to see a Mewtwo King back air here to clean up this edge guard, and it doesn't happen. What? And then Slum goes off on whatever, you know. So that's just something. That's just what I would have done in that situation. Of course, like it's just an easier way for your co-commentator to find a place to jump in and continue with the flow. All right, let me see. Did I just hear? Yeah, let's go here.
And it's preventing Dreffin from using the platforms by like throwing this like short hop needle on platform, like aerial onto the platform, etc. His goal here is to just prevent Dreffin from like being able to just do those full hop mix-ups on platforms, really sharking his landings, preventing him from even going up there by needling.
Yeah, weird.
So, yeah, in this situation, you were providing a lot of information. It was a little rambly, but we can take what we learned in that little past previous segment, and we got to be able to condense and then finish with that hard concluding statement. So, going back until you kind of had 2 or 3 statements kind of blended in here, and let's see how we could have maybe wrapped it up a little bit cleaner.
Platforms by like throwing this like short hop needle on platform, like aerial onto the platform, etc.
Etc. is fine. So, like, if you would have wrapped it up there, it would have been fine. But because you kind of trailed off with the way you said it, it wasn't, like, you could even hear it with Slummy kind of, like, breathed in. He's like, do I start talking now? I'm not sure. And so you just got to make sure that when you are concluding your statement, you have to make it obvious, and you have to be confident in what you're saying. So confidence will carry over in just about every aspect of commentary, and especially when it comes to being able to pass the mic to and from your co-commentator, because when you're ending a statement in like an affirmative tone, you're like, okay, I'm confident that what I just said had value. So everything that I just put out there, I knew it had value, and I hope you can do something with it. And if you don't have something to do with it, I'll think about what you're going to say, and then we can move back and forth. And so don't let your voice trail. Finish with some confidence. Say it with your chest, and hopefully that will help. Not only finish out those rambling statements and condense those rambling statements, but also to give a better indication for your co-commentator, like, all right, I'm done with what I'm saying, all you, baby. So that's
Gotcha.
super, super important piece right there. And I just wanted to highlight 2 more things. Actually, some pretty good stuff.
But we say that, and I mean, just such a brutal matchup. We are back.
They did the exact same thing to each other.
And the exact
Mirror
same
image.
scenario. Yeah.
So yeah, that was after like they both just got those extended chain grabs into jump cancel up smash. You're like, wow, they literally just did the same thing. And so like that's objectively funny, and sometimes people wouldn't notice if they like. So if you're at home watching, you're like, oh shit, they literally just chain grabbed each other to 115 and then just tipper up smashed each other back to back. That's hilarious. So that was a good point to bring up. Like, yeah, it's just a goofy thing, but like even little silly things like that. If it makes you laugh, 90% of the time someone at home also thought it was funny, so it's probably worth bringing up. All right. And 11:40.
Out.
Yep,
At
and
at
then
that like 20%, it's so good to hit the dive kick.
yeah, that bear off of ledge gonna net a cool like.
Yes, so that's a good example right there. So you brought it up again. This is a callback. Callbacks, super super cool. Dive kick. That's the story of these Dreamland games. So when you're saying it, you're
Strategy finally working out.
Yep,
At
and
at
then
that like 20%, it's so good to hit the dive kick.
boom, done. Cleared it out. Let Slum talk about why that's impactful at that percent. Your job is done. Your job is over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a really good example of how to, you said it very confidently. You said it like that's just a really good percent to hit the falling downer. So good to go. So I think we have one more game. Yeah, it's over after this one. So last game. So last little bit of notes. We're just gonna watch through it. I'm gonna take some notes again. Like you've noticed, I'm sure like the notes are more few and far between because I don't want to talk your ear off about the same thing over and over again because obviously you can't change what happened in the past. But here we go.
well, Fountain it is. Dreffen, Chaos Stage is already letting J-Flex get out of a chain grab, spot dodging the up smash because of his tech. A much, much more in-your-face matchup than what we saw on Dreamland. They are both just trying to cover like the edge of center stage with aerials, just to try to catch one of them going in. But we get another grab. Dreffen not gonna find much off of it, but reacts to the tech in, gets a down tilt to a fair. Gonna get a lot of mileage off of this conversion.
Oh, that was a fair. Ooh, he's doing the
weak
back
air. Great
No,
tech
you
from
gotta-
J-Flex.
You have to grab forward air that you can't down smash that.
Up air, interesting choice from J-Flex. Gonna reset us. 171, gonna kill J-Flex though. Dreffen, triple digit percent himself. Definitely in danger of losing the stock and getting evened up. J-Flex knowing that, wanting to play a little more passive just to see if he can get this stock. They're gonna connect to fair. We are at a almost dead even game.
Oh, that was smart. That's super smart. Challenging J-Flex on the ledge and then punishing him for trying to get off the ledge. Both these players are just masters of using the opponent's movement against them. That's kind of what I noticed, is that like they're both trying to like feel out the opponent's flow and then like let them beat themselves up. And that's why you get these like super passive exchanges, because like both of them are trying to redirect the aggression to the other, but neither of them like want to actually be aggressive because they know that the other person's trying to do that.
Yeah. It's almost just like a battle of movement until we get a grab off of a tilt. All right, will they do fair? Yep.
It's like at martial arts, like the focus of like Aikido and like Tai Chi and that kind of thing is like redirection of movement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what this matchup feels like to me.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a movement abusing type of matchup, but J-Flex clutching out the littlest baby lead right now. Dreffen not gonna get the up air and gonna get shield poked by the get up attack into the
that
grab.
Was beautiful movement. That's beautiful movement. That dash away is like perfectly spaced.
Ooh,
that was a
beautiful
crazy mix-up.
recovery.
That was a crazy mix-up. I thought he was going on the stage for sure. I got mixed up there. He mixed me up. No way I was covering that.
But Nair gonna seal it after all that. You hate when a mix-up plays out and then you just die right after. J-Flex not gonna get to the legend time. Gonna give it straight to Dreffen. They both get caught in their run.
He needs to back air for these edge guards. Just falling back air. He's seen Dreffen do it to get kills. So at this point, like he's got to just start like, just like falling back air to cover the ledge. Like if you do it early, even if you miss like the back air, you get out of hit stun pretty early. Ooh, that could have been.
Oh my god, that could have been so bad. But the timing, probably frame perfect for J-Flex. Dreffen trying to find a way back to center stage, just needs to get one setup. 43%. You
It's
could
like
easily
looking
chain
like
grab
a
to
3-2
stop.
master right now.
Yeah.
Like, crushing out so many like 3-2 sets this tournament. Such an adapter. Such an adapter.
Such an adapter. We've got that download on lock, but we are not out of the woods yet.
Reverse needles to read him going behind him.
Oh.
That was crazy. I don't know if that was intentional. That was insane. I couldn't even tell that is intentional. That was so like precise that like it could just be like a snapback accident or it could be like an amazing read, and it's just like you never know. Draven trying to up smash that. You got a back air. You have to back air.
Okay, we are at. Ooh.
Maybe going for reverse fair there.
Draven pulling out the Zelda, not gonna find anything.
That's it. And Draven with a solid 3-2.
That will go ahead and wrap up the set. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to our notes. And here we go. So thinking about that game 5, what were your initial reactions?
I feel like my ideas were really good. I had some conciseness issues, but I feel pretty good with the ideas that I was bringing up.
Yeah, so I think that you guys were beginning to figure out your flow in that situation. So something that I like to highlight is they're interrupting your co-commentator isn't always a bad idea. So sometimes when I always call it like you know in teams when you go off to like go hit your teammate to give them another double jump or to give them another up B so they can get back.
Yeah.
So I call that like going out there and like saving your teammates, but it's like in a brutal way. Like you literally go out there, like whack them with your sword so that they can live. So in a situation where let's say your co-commentator is like rambling and they don't know how to finish their statement, what you have to do as a good co-commentator is interrupt them so that they can stop talking. Believe it or not, it's really important sometimes. So there were a couple situations where interrupting your co-commentator was pretty important. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up in just one moment. So where was my timestamp? It was 1340. So that was a lot of situations in
Off of it, but
this situation, and that's like a really good tool to teach you guys in this game because I feel like there was a lot of cool situations about it. So we're gonna go over here 1340.
reacts to the tech in, gets a down tilt to a fair. Gonna get a lot of mileage off of this conversion.
Oh, that was a fair. Ooh, he's doing the
weak
back air.
air. Great
No,
tech
you
from
gotta-
J-Flex.
You have to grab forward air that you can't down smash that.
So in this situation, yeah, Grant has been talking for a hot minute, and you can kind of tell he wants to find a way to wrap it up. But please don't tell me I closed my notes. Why is it not showing? Oh, there it is. Oh my god. Say like I didn't save it. That would make me real sad. But in this situation, it's kind of knowing when and how to interrupt your co-commentator. So in this situation, when he's been talking for a while and there's this cool edgeguard flowchart going on, what you can do in that situation is if you're going to interrupt, you have to make sure what you're saying has a lot of substance. And what you're saying will lead into a full-blooded like conversation starter per se. So you kind of interrupt with some like exclamation.
Not gonna find much off of it, but reacts to the tech in, gets a down tilt to a fair. Gonna get a lot of mileage off of this conversion.
Oh, that was a fair.
So you interrupted a little bit, and you now have the mic. So now that you have the mic, you have to give it some substance, you know? So you kind of like, oh yeah, that was a fair. Oh wow, that was a pretty crazy deep diving back air. Let's see if Draven can clean up the stock. And then that gave Grant enough time to kind of collect himself, and maybe he's ready to take the mic back again after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just being able to, like, if you are going to interrupt, you have to make sure it's with good reason. And it provides to either ending an over-the-top rambling situation or to really, really, really highlight something that was super important. And if you're going to do that, you have to use energy. You have to say it with your chest. You have to make sure that you're not only giving your co-commentator like, hey, I need to speak now, so you need to shut up, so that way we're not talking at the same time. So if I'm going to interrupt my co-commentator, I'm going to say it with a lot of energy, so they just go, they cut off. Like, even they could be mid-phrase, and like they just cut off because, no, I'm talking, I have a lot of energy, I'm explaining what's going on, and then I can give themselves a cleaner path to get the mic back, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's super impactful. So just make sure, like, in that situation like that, yes, that was a good time to interrupt because there wasn't a lot of substance going on, but you need to make sure that when you do, there's a lot of substance. That you have substance to provide. So 14:30. Let me see.
Get off the ledge. Both these players are just masters of using the opponent's movement against them. That's kind of what I noticed, is that like they're both trying to like feel out the opponent's flow and then like let them beat themselves up. And that's why you get these like super passive exchanges, because like both of them are trying to redirect the aggression of the other, but neither of them like want to actually be aggressive because they know that the other person's trying to do that.
Yeah.
So
It's almost
it was a little rambly, but you concluded it in a really solid way. So it was very obvious you were done with your statement, so Grant could take over from that situation. So yes, it was a little bit drawn out, but it had a lot of good substance, and you knew when to stop, and you stopped at a good spot. So that was good. 1500. Oh, just continue.
just like a battle of movement until we get a grab off of a tilt. All right, will they do fair? Yep.
It's like at martial arts, like the focus of like Aikido and like Tai Chi and that kind of thing is like redirection of movement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what this matchup feels like to me.
So that was a really cool piece of information to bring in, because it brings in that worldly aspect. It ties in something that like you were saying, that redirection of movement, trying to maintain an advantageous position, but also punishing your opponent for overextending, that sort of idea, which is also done in like high level martial arts. But I think a lot of the real confidence and substance of that statement got lost because you were kind of fumbling over yourself. Like, you were using a lot of filler words. It didn't really seem like you were confident in what you were saying. So when you're going to make a reference like that, you have to say it with a lot of confidence, and you have to say it very cleanly, because then it makes you seem like an authority on the topic. Because if you say it with a lack of confidence, you say it if you sound unsure, then some people will discredit you, and then it won't actually get the ideas that you went across. Because you had a really great idea, and it was a super cool tie-in to, a real life martial arts, and I really like that reference. But a lot of it was lost in translation because you used a lot of filler words, and it was very jumbled in your delivery. So again, that's just something that'll come with a little more experience, and something that can help in a situation like that is if you have that situation. But I think you had that idea after your past comment about the game, how the game was flowing, and while Grant was talking, I would almost rehearse it in your mind how you would address your intro to that idea. So like, okay, I want to talk about Tai Chi and Judo and Aikido, and I want to talk about how that's a cool little thing to tie into, the Sheik Ditto play style as well as martial arts. So what I would do in that situation is, at the very least, your first sentence in that idea needs to be spotless, needs to be perfect. So if you're going to deliver that piece of information, just make sure that first statement is confident, concise, and knowledgeable. And then you can broaden on that if you would like to.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Lead right now. Drevin not going to get the up air and going to get shield poked by the get up attack into the
That was
grab.
beautiful movement. That's beautiful movement. That dash away is like perfectly spaced.
That was a perfect example of a good interruption. So a really cool interaction happened. You gave an exclamation like, "Oh my god." And that showed Slum that you really want to take this next piece of information, and then you carried it on with a solid piece of follow-up information, so it didn't come off as jarring as it might have. So that was a really good cutoff there.
Gotcha.
Let's see, and our last one is 15:45. This will be our last example of knowing when and when not to interrupt.
But Nair gonna seal it after all of that. You hate when a mix-up plays out and then you just die right after. J-Flex not gonna get to the legend time. Gonna give it straight to Dreffin. They both get caught in their run.
He needs to back air for the edge guards. Just falling back air. He's seen Dreffin do it to get kills.
So in this situation, it's the time to, One Sheik's coming off the Angel platform. It's more of a time to talk about big macro ideas, and you could tell that Slum was kind of wrapping up at that time. So just let Slum finish his statement. Just hang on just a little bit longer. And if you need to interrupt, if something crazy happens, then absolutely. Because I could tell you had a really good, big really big macro idea that you wanted to discuss here, which is fine. But I would just give Slum just a little bit more time to see if he can wrap up before you go ahead and interject.
Okay.
Yeah. And that will conclude our viewing today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up our notes here. Let me see, make sure that the broadcast is fine. Broadcast is fine. So, all right, we are at the conclusion. So what I want to do is I will go ahead and copy and send you these notes as well. But in our final piece of information, I'm just going to go ahead and go and reiterate our tools and tips that we discussed already, and then we can do some quick reflections. So our first tool is obviously do not be afraid of silence. Silence is perfectly okay. Silence is something that allows the viewer and listener to draw conclusions themselves, as well as provide a narrative that they can also extrapolate against or even with your commentary, which is a really, really important thing to entice the viewer. So rambling can be turned into a conversation. So if you find yourself rambling on a 2 or 3 phrase idea, just cut it off at one concise phrase. See if your co-commentator will jump on that, or even if you don't think that they're passing the mic back and forth as effectively as you'd like, it's perfectly okay to ask a question of your co-commentator. You can ask, what do you think about this option? What do you think about how Dreffin is doing this? What do you think about how J-Flex is reacting to that? And then that immediately starts that conversation. So again, another situation about trying to work on rambling, trying to know when to cut yourself off, is watch your breath. If you need to search for a word or enunciation to finish your statement, that's also very good. So watching your breath, making sure that if you find yourself breathing multiple times in one statement, you probably need to find a way to end your statement. So go ahead and search for a word or work that enunciation to make sure you finish your statement so that your co-commentator knows to take the mic away from you. And that goes into our only really crude tooltip is knowing when to shut up. It's perfectly fine to cut yourself off, add one little piece of information. If you don't have a lot to say, then don't go ahead and start throwing out stuff for no reason. So you should never feel forced to say something when there's nothing that needs to be said. And our final little piece is make sure you can trust your co-commentator. So if you're commentating Melee and you have the confidence to at least perform on the mic in front of a stream in front of Melee viewers, you're at least confident enough in your knowledge to open yourself up to criticism. So take that criticism with a grain of salt, but that also means that they probably know at least a little bit of what they're talking about. So even if you don't think that, again, we can use those tools that we talked about earlier, transition your statements, and then finishing them with questions, and then starting a conversation that way. So those are some of our tools. And do you have any, I'm going to add my reflections real quick. So, discuss rambling and the tools to work with that. needs more mic time to work on elimination of fillers. Needs to work on condensing complex thoughts. All right. So those are my reflections, and I'm going to go ahead and send this to you, but I'm going to go ahead and conclude our little video here. So I want to thank Logan for coming out. Logan, I hope you learned something. I hope you had a good time. I know we had a pretty lengthy conversation, about an hour and a half. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got some pretty good insight here. And of course, commentary is not a science. This is something I really want to take the time to enunciate in this situation, is that I don't know what's best. It's, of course, commentary is, it's a, what's the word for it? It's a case-by-case situation. Some people like a certain style, some people don't, and it's very subjective. Commentary is a very subjective art, and there's no correct way, there's no incorrect way to do it, but I do think with a little bit of work and a little bit of help that everyone can hone their craft, and even I ask for help and review on certain sets that I don't feel very great about. So again, this will be uploaded on the All Chat Esports YouTube channel, so if you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and check us out for some more caster class, and please support us for the salt mine through 2022. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you later.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, dude.
I learned so much. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's so much deep. The rabbit hole goes so much deeper.